1994.
Breaking news from the White House. 6 top White House aides have been subpoenaed to testify in the Whitewater affair. And White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum's resignation is said to be imminent. Tonight, just how far will Whitewater go?
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Chris Wallace.
Ever since the Whitewater story first broke, most people in Washington, even most Republicans, have resisted comparing it to Watergate. Tonight, that became more difficult. Around 7 p.m. this evening, the FBI, acting on behalf of Special Counsel Robert Fisk, served subpoenas on 6 top White House officials, seeking their testimony before a grand jury. The 6 are White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum, Deputy Chief of Staff Harold Ickes, Senior Advisor Bruce Lindsay, Communications Director Mark Guerin, Mrs. Clinton's Chief of Staff Maggie Williams, and Mrs. Clinton's Press Secretary Lisa Caputo. The subpoena stemmed from briefings that Treasury Department officials have given these staffers about the federal investigation into Whitewater. In addition, the special counsel subpoenaed all documents related to the matter. And tonight, White House lawyers issued an extraordinary memo to the staff, halting the removal of all burn bags, as well as the removal of wastebasket trash containers. The memo concludes the destruction of documents after receipt of this subpoena may constitute obstruction of justice. We are told that President Clinton was notified of the subpoenas shortly before they were served this evening. We talked with Special Counsel Fisk on the phone tonight. He said all grand jury proceedings are confidential, and he would have no further comment. ABC's Brit Hume is standing by at the White House now. And Brit, how big a bombshell was all this over there?
Well, I don't think that it was quite the bombshell at 7 o'clock that it might have been, because there had been some earlier notice here that it was going to come. However, with all the suspense around here today, having been devoted really to the question of whether Mr. Nussbaum would survive, it was quite a jolt to those of us who were waiting for that news to hear instead this, with the question of Mr. Nussbaum's departure apparently having been put off for, until tomorrow, although it is quite clear tonight here that he is leaving.
The whole point, Britt, of course, of appointing the special counsel was to try to get Whitewater on the back burner. But now here we have 6 of the most important people in the White House under subpoena. Isn't that necessarily going to be an enormous distraction?
I think for the moment it is, Chris, but I think we need to keep a couple things in mind. It seems that what the special counsel has done with these subpoenas is to suggest that he takes a rather dim view of these briefings by Treasury and possibly other officials of members of the White House, briefings in which they were provided information that your average person would not have been about, in at least one instance, what are called criminal referrals, documents that are supposed to be, information that's supposed to be confidential. But it's not at all clear that anything criminal happened here. It's what the counsel seems to have done is to indicate he doesn't, if anybody is thinking of doing anything funny with the evidence in this case, they had best not do so. The subpoena for these people to testify communicates that message, and this sweeping subpoena for documentary materials does as well. And the White House, it should be said, has moved to comply with the subpoena with the order that you just mentioned, in which even trash is being held onto here.
You know, Whitewater, up till now, has generally involved Bill Clinton's actions as governor. Doesn't this bring it into the question of his actions as president with these meetings between White House officials and Treasury Department officials?
Well, it certainly brings into question actions of people operating under him. It's certainly the president, of course, has not been identified as having participated in any of these meetings. But these were people, after all, acting on his behalf, and they included, it should be noted, one of them was Harold Ickes, who was brought here in large measure to provide the kind of political sense and judgment and experience here in Washington that was thought perhaps lacking in some of the other people, able though they might have been. So it isn't becoming to have this happen, but it's not at all clear that this means that the Whitewater investigation has now, in some final sense, reached the White House. What appears to have happened is that on an evidentiary question, the special counsel has signaled that no monkey shines, but it may go no farther than that.
Brit Hume at the White House, thanks very much. Congressman Jim Leach of Iowa is the ranking Republican on the House Banking Committee, and he joins us now from our Chicago station, WLS-TV. Congressman Leach, your reaction to the special counsel's actions tonight?
Well, this is a very profound step, and I think it's been underestimated. What we have in America is a strong tradition that This is a government of laws and not men. Process is our most important product. Quite clearly, government regulations have been violated. The special counsel, as a very astute attorney and very careful attorney, has reached a very obvious conclusion.
Your reaction, there has been a call by some Republicans about the need for a congressional investigation. Given the fact that the special counsel has moved so quickly in this area, do you still feel Congress should get into this?
Well, you know, sometimes Congress has a different purpose than special counsels. One deals with criminal activity, the other deals with what might be considered legislative endeavors, public oversight, public disclosure. This particular episode strikes me as largely in the realm of the special counsel, particularly because you have executive privilege that might conceivably be exercisable. But that doesn't mean that Congress in its oversight function doesn't have a very valid inquiry to make.
There are reports tonight that Bernard Nussbaum, the White House counsel, is going to resign. We have about 30 seconds left in this segment. Is that good news?
Oh, I think resignations are always sad news, and they're sad for the families of those involved. They're sad for the reasons that they're exhibited. There's no joy anywhere in America about this.
Congressman Leach, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us this evening. Before tonight's breaking news, we prepared a broadcast on the issue of repressed memory. In the wake of the accusations of sexual abuse leveled at Chicago Archbishop Joseph Cardinal Bernardin, which were later withdrawn, can such sudden recovered memory be trusted? When we come back, we'll bring you that story in just a moment.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by MCI.
Without knowing, American businesses wasted $1 billion last year by using the wrong long-distance company. $1 billion that could have been reinvested in those businesses. That's why MCI announces a $1 billion stimulus plan for American business. Get all the savings from Proof Positive, plus we'll send you a check that doubles your savings every time you get a Proof Positive statement this year. Call and make the most stimulating investment of all, an investment in your business.
We designed a new car. We created a new class. We developed new engineering. We created a new standard of performance. We redefined value. Introducing the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. It wasn't designed to compete with other cars. It was designed to replace them. The new C-Class starting at under $30,000.
I'm David Brinkley. President Clinton is not likely to get his health plan unless Chairman Rostenkowski of Illinois and his House Ways and Means Committee support it. The chairman will be with us Sunday.
Why pay more? Now at Circuit City, get unbeatable low prices plus 0% interest for 6 months on select top brands. Save on this Zenith 25-inch TV with remote, now $297.97. This Panasonic bookshelf stereo system with CD player, now $199.97. And this Hotpoint 14 cubic foot refrigerator, just $389.97. Why pay more? Get unbeatable low prices and 0% interest now.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
It can get rather lonely out here on the test track this time of year. Because of all the top-selling import luxury sedans, only one offers a combination of front-wheel drive, anti-lock brakes, and electronic traction control. Standard, the Acura Legend GS, which proves you can still be a leader, even if you can't get anyone to follow. Acura, some things are worth the price.
It was one of those allegations that seemed unthinkable, that Joseph Cardinal Bernardin, head of the Archdiocese of Chicago, had sexually abused a teenage boy back in the 70s. Stephen Cook, now 34, said that repressed memories of the abuse had been unlocked in therapy, and he filed a $10 million lawsuit. This week, Cook dropped his charges, saying he could no longer trust his memories. But this case is just the most celebrated example of a growing trend. People claiming memories of child abuse that they say have been repressed for years, now demanding justice for their alleged abusers. There are serious questions about the therapy that is being used to unlock these memories. There are also questions about the courts, which in many states allow repressed memory to be used as testimony. How do we balance concern about child abuse with concern for the rights of the accused? Nightline's Chris Bury reports.
The ordeal of the past several months has been painful, very painful.
In Chicago, a respected Catholic cardinal was humiliated, then vindicated, after his accuser recanted recently minted recollections of sexual abuse.
I now realize that the memories which arose during and after the hypnosis are unreliable.
In Idaho, Gary Higgins is serving 20 years for incest he has always denied. Convicted partly on the basis of childhood memories his daughter recovered during therapy.
I didn't know everything that had happened. I gained a lot of insight throughout my therapy.
And in Washington State, Paul Ingram claims he was wrongfully convicted of staging satanic sex rituals with 2 daughters after becoming so convinced of their recovered memories that he pleaded guilty. In courtrooms across the country, the notion of recovered memory has gained such legal acceptance that 20 states now allow it to be used as testimony. The idea holds that the trauma of sexual abuse can cause a child to block out the memory only to retrieve it years or even decades later, usually with the help of a therapist. But the idea that a repressed memory can somehow be retrieved like an old photograph has come under increasing attack.
This is a fad, but it's a very dangerous fad because people are in jail, people are giving wrong diagnoses.
Richard Gardner is a professor of psychiatry at Columbia University.
It has attracted a lot of incompetent and zealous people, overzealous, who see sex abuse everywhere.
We're seeing more people coming forward. We're seeing more memory repression, and like most Americans, I thought perhaps it was a fad. Unfortunately, that's not usually the case.
Sigmund Freud started all this. In 1893, he theorized that hysteria in adults was caused by repressed memories of childhood seductions. The debate has raged ever since.
People who have been genuinely traumatized in just about every other category don't have to go into therapy in order to remember their childhood trauma. People who were in concentration camps as children don't need to go into hypnotherapy to remember they're in concentration camps.
In 1988, a best-selling self-help book, The Courage to Heal, put repressed memory at the top of the pop psychology charts. It became the Bible of believers, dispensing such advice as, if you think you were abused and your life shows the symptoms, then you were. TV celebrities, too, began to serve up long-forgotten memories of abuse.
Incest happens to 1 of 3 girls and 1 of 5 boys, and we have to stop it.
Researchers at the University of California are just beginning to understand how memories are stored. They say no scientific evidence suggests those memories can be formed, repressed, and then recovered years later. But experiments have shown memories can be invented.
We are all susceptible to the creation of what are called false memories. That is, there are circumstances in which we can be told things or led to understand things that never happened, and yet at a later time we will believe that those things really happened to us.
Okay, Judy, I'm going to count you back to age 16 when the rape occurred.
Memory repression has spawned its own cottage industry. Training tapes like this teach therapists techniques with names like age regression and guided imagery to bring back painful childhood memories.
5, 6, 7, all the feelings, let it go all the way down. 8, 9, 10.
Gina Smiley originally entered therapy to help overcome an eating disorder.
Within the first week and a half, 2 weeks, I was told that my eating disorder was so severe that there had to be something more that I just wasn't remembering.
In therapy, that something more became a newfound memory of sexual abuse from her father and other relatives. Gina herself was featured in a training video in which a therapist leads her into a childhood state. Here she is seen drawing a satanic ritual, part of her vividly recalled but false memory of rape.
Some of the specific allegations were that my father had drugged me as a child, taken me to rituals outside of the small town where he lived, where I was molested by a group of people in the satanic cult supposedly that he belonged to.
Gina has since recanted the story and now is suing the therapist. But her experience is not isolated.
We were told it was an absolute fact that everything we were spitting out in our head was factual history, that it was what happened in our childhood. It was a way of getting well.
Laura Pasley, too, entered therapy for an eating disorder and eventually became convinced she had been a victim of childhood sexual abuse.
It began with molestation. It included my mother. I accused my mother, my brother, a grandfather, and a neighbor before I finally left the therapy.
You're so desperate for something that you can latch onto that makes any kind of sense that you just believe it. I mean, it's like you're so hungry for an answer, and it's like they're giving you the answer.
Even skeptics who question the accuracy of recovered memories do not doubt the prevalence of child abuse. But they do fear allegations based on little more than memories lost and found in therapy.
It has all the criteria of a witch hunt, and the similarities between Salem and what we have now are uncanny.
Like the Salem witch hunts, a single unsubstantiated charge can easily ruin a reputation or worse. The fear is recovered memory therapy encourages vulnerable souls to blame their troubles on others, all in the name of healing. And very often the consequences for the patients and their families are devastating. When we return, part 2 of Chris Bury's report on repressed memory, a look at a woman whose recovered memory has divided her from her family. We'll be back in a moment.
The blackened coil unwinds. In the darkness, nighthawks climb. As shadows creep, here we lie in perfect sleep. Serta, we make the world's best mattress.
Cameron Park, California makes Ace Airplanes. Know why?
We make hardware
easy.
This month, just ask Ace about their great deals like Ace 5-star flat latex wall paint, just $7.77 a gallon.
Ace is America's place for better ideas.
Isn't it strange that people spend 5 days a week trapped inside an office, only to spend their weekends trapped inside a fence? Presenting the 1994 24-valve 175 horsepower rodeo. It can take you where you won't feel boxed in. Isuzu, practically amazing.
Last week, Day One opened the government's eyes to how cigarette makers may keep smokers hooked. This week, there's more. Don't miss Day One, Monday at 8, 7 Central.
Oh, no, just what we need. Another basketball shoe commercial. Whoa, what's this? Oh, this is new. Dual airbags, ABS, leather, CD, more room than a Lexus. It's a Sonata from Hyundai.
You got a problem with that? I didn't think so.
You may find the aisles a bit crowded this weekend at Homemakers, and here's the reason. Our annual clearance sale. That means 20 to 60% off on hundreds of pieces. 20 to 60% off on one-of-a-kind, discontinued, floor samples, and display pieces. And there's more. No payments at all till way next August. Our annual clearance sale. 20 to 60% off and no payments due till August. This weekend at John O. Smith's Homemakers.
Miami's South Beach is a photographer's paradise. Ask Irene Marie. Her models appear in magazines all over the world. But when her modeling agency needs office products, she calls the biggest star of all, Office Depot. From Canada to Florida, nobody guarantees lower prices than Office Depot. Nobody. Okay, that's a wrap.
Typically, in some well-known cases of repressed memory, the recollection comes in therapy. In the case of Joanne, the memory of past abuse came to her in a nightmare. Again, Nightline's Chris Bury.
Nicole and Jerry Bishop have warm memories of their daughter, Joanne, as a young girl.
Joanne was a very happy, very compliant child. She was very easy to get along with.
Whatever you asked her to do, she was tickled to death to do it. And she was just a very easy child to raise, very easy.
And Joanne, now 33, considered her mom her best friend. And her father?
My dad, as far as I was concerned, he was God. He was everything to me. I had him up on a pedestal so high that nobody else could see him.
But Joanne was a troubled teenager, and by her own account, her early adult years were a mess.
I had many years of drug abuse, of promiscuity, of divorces, marriage and divorces, of being beaten up by ex-husbands. I've had many nights crying. I've had one too many black eyes.
After one bad night in 1987, Joanne became convinced she'd been raped as a child. Other details were sketchy.
I woke up one morning, approximately 5 a.m. in the morning, from a dream that I had been molested, and I was screaming and crying.
In September 1991, Joanne, then suffering from anxiety attacks and depression, was admitted to the psychiatric unit of this hospital near St. Louis. It was during that stay that Joanne, then 30 years old, first claimed that her father had molested her as a child. She claims the memory was triggered by a picture in a family photo album.
It was a picture of my father in a race car that he used to drive, and it had a big number 8 painted on the hood of the car. It's hard for me to describe the feelings that I had. I started screaming, crying. I was screaming, why? I was screaming, no, it can't be my dad, it can't be my dad.
I remember when my wife told me, I shuddered. I just shook because it was that painful to think that this daughter that I dearly loved with my heart and soul would accuse me of something like this. I just can't think of anything worse. Death.
That fall, Joanne and her third husband had been seeing a marriage counselor, Nigel Darvell, a clinical social worker. After her first memory of incest, Darvell, himself a victim of childhood sex abuse, had Joanne try age regression therapy.
I allow them to kind of meditate, to connect with their inner child, basically get the patient to go back into a time where they can see themselves with regard to any age, whether it be 5, 8, 10 years old.
I believe that I was abused between 2 and 3, and I believe that it took place for a few years, quite a few years.
To age what?
Early teenage.
There is no other record, no other evidence but Joanne's memory. Her second-grade report card, for instance, offers not a hint of trouble.
The personality and behavior, politeness, everything about it shows A in excellence. And that's why what came up later was such a shock to us, because that certainly does not show that a child had been molested all this time.
People can't get into the victims or the survivor's head and see those memories like we can. So everybody's asking for proof. I can't pull that memory out of my head and say, here it is.
The Bishops became even more alarmed in December 1992 when they received a letter from their daughter's lawyer.
The first letter was written by an attorney asking us for $750,000. Not being guilty, if it were $1.50, I wouldn't have paid it.
I have a stack that I would be willing, more than willing to show you, of hospital bills, therapists, psychiatrists. The list goes on and on.
Joanne later filed a lawsuit asking for $1 million in damages. It has since been dropped, but she is now considering another lawsuit. Her father remains convinced his daughter's memory of incest was manufactured during therapy.
When we go to court, I will risk everything I have worked the last 35 years for to prove it. And I will prove it, and I will win. Because it's a lie.
I cannot reiterate this more. I love my parents.
You say you love your parents, yet
You are making a horrifically serious charge against your father.
I know. I don't like this at all. I hate this.
Joanne truly believes the terrible memory her parents swear is a grotesque lie. Psychology or quackery? One memory recovered has left one family destroyed. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in St. Louis.
We hope to bring you an interview with Joseph Cardinal Bernardine, but because of tonight's breaking news, we were unable to do that. I'll be back in a moment.
Paying for quality can be a difficult decision at first. But over time, it gets a lot easier to live with. Acura. Some things are worth the price.
Where nature stores gas. Where man does. Right idea. Brighter idea.
True value. Help is just around the corner.
1, it's my job to set the tone for this company. 2, to me that means being direct, being truthful. We call that straight talk. 3, straight talk means being on the phone when there's news, good or bad. 4, I'm straight with people and I expect the same, from our brokers to my kids. 5, time is money. Thank you for your time.
Spruce up your home with Menards and Federal American. These durable stainless steel sinks are available in many styles. This double bowl sink is just $39.97 after $3 mail-in rebate. Over 100 lights from Diamond F are on sale now. This champagne glass pendant is $39.99. A ribbed glass chandelier is $59.95. Menards is your one-stop home improvement center.
Save big money at Menards.
Why pay more? Now at Circuit City, get unbeatable low prices plus 0% interest for 6 months on select top brands. Save on this Zenith 25-inch TV with remote, now $297.97. This Panasonic bookshelf stereo system with CD player, now $199.97. And this Hotpoint 14-cubic-foot refrigerator, just $389.97. Why pay more? Get unbeatable low prices and 0% interest now.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
To recap our breaking news this evening, 6 top White House aides have been subpoenaed to testify on the Whitewater affair. The 6 are Deputy Chief of Staff Harold Ickes, Senior Advisor Bruce Lindsay, Communications Director Mark Guerin, and from Mrs. Clinton's office, Chief of Staff Maggie Williams and Press Secretary Lisa Caputo. Also to testify will be White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum, who is expected to resign, possibly today. Sunday morning on This Week with David Brinkley, the latest on the evolving Whitewater story. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Chris Wallace in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
If you wish a printed transcript of Nightline, please send $5 to 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. If you wish a videocassette version of Nightline, the cost is $14.98, plus $3.95 shipping and handling.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.